Welcome to the Boardroom Podcast. I'm Ward 6 Alderman Ben Piper.
Hey, I'm Ward 4 Alderman Chad Wicker. Merry Christmas, everybody, man.
It's a Christmas episode.
I think we're recording this, what is this, Friday, two or 3 days before Christmas. So what have you been up to, Ben?
Santa's going to be here soon, so get loaded up for that and get the tree.
If you're like me, you got some last-minute Christmas shopping to do. And,
you already got the tree decorated?
Well, I didn't,
Are you way ahead of time?
I didn't
I'm
decorate it. Didn't decorate the tree, Ben. That's a Shelby job.
Oh, okay. All right.
As we say at our house, that's a mama job.
Oh, okay. I get the lights on. And make sure that it's straight and it's secure and good to go. And then I just take directions from there.
Yeah, but are you like us? You got like 8 trees, though. It's not just one.
The kids have like a small little 2-footer tree in their in their room, and they kind of pick out how they want to get it done and whatnot. And then we've got a few other ones through the house. One's got nothing but ornaments that the family's made like over the years. Like there's one that I made in the 80s and all that. So we're Christmas is a time for tradition and thinking back to I don't know how you want to say it, back to the good old days, or back when just times of Christmases past, and
that's right.
Just remembering the nostalgia of
great time of year, and you get to fellowship with your family and friends, and a lot of parties and events, and like we had the Christmas parade a couple of weeks ago. We had after our board meeting Tuesday night, we all had dinner at the parish. I really enjoyed that. Just talking to the. It's hard to believe, but we actually are friends, so we all get along well. And talking to other things besides city business is kind of fun sometimes. So
it is. It's good, and I think a lot of times people just focus on you got to get the gifts and you got to do the stockings and all that stuff's really fun. But I'm sure there's a lot of great Christmas Eve services that'll be going on where we can take time to remember the reason for the season.
Absolutely,
our Savior Jesus being born. And it's just a special, special time of year. I think I think everybody really enjoys it here in Hernando. And so this is our Christmas episode. We don't have a Christmas themed guest or anything like that, but we will be having Hernando Mayor Chip Johnson joining us later. But before we do that, do you want to talk any more about Christmas? Are we done with Christmas now?
I think you covered it pretty good. I do think that the around the square is beautiful how they did the Christmas lights. Have you come out at night?
It is. I am looking forward to. I know that at some point in the spring, this is something people can look forward to. So I think sometime in the spring they're going to have the lights go up on Panola Street. Like
okay. We approved. The Chamber of Commerce did.
Yeah, they have. So on Panola Street, if you know where that is, if you've ever been to the Mudbug Bash, or you ever been to the food court during a fair,
Jim C has a little courtyard there. A lot of times, a lot of things happen. A lot of people get married there and have receptions there and things.
So there will be some string lights way higher up there to kind of create some ambiance, if you will.
You, big word there, ambiance. Look at you.
It's only 3 syllables. It's like a 50-cent word. But it'll be a nice little addition to
I forgot all about that. That's gonna be nice.
Hopefully it'll get done before some of these bigger events, these springtime events, and all that stuff's right around the corner. And you got the crystal ball, the Mardi Gras ball, like all that stuff.
It's coming.
Easter's really early this year.
It'd be Mudbug Bash before you know it too. So
next thing you know, it man, we'll be setting out baskets for the Easter Bunny, man. I'll tell you what, this is it rolls up on you. It rolls up on you quick.
That's right.
But let's wrap up 2023 with the last Board of Alderman meeting, December 19th. So we had a little bit of discussion. Typically this is something that we kind of roll through really quickly, is approving the docket of claims, which is basically just paying any of the invoices and bills that have come in. And there was one that we pulled out that was basically some of the paving work that had been done in the fall that I know I pulled it out because I felt like there was some work that was done that just wasn't really up to par, or up to what we would normally accept. That company came back in, they redid some of the work. I think they got it to a place where the minimum threshold had been met. But we certainly wanted to get that on the books, get it in the minutes that like their work was not necessarily what we would want in the future, so that if they do bid in the future, there's a record of saying, look, this is not they may be the lowest one, but they're not necessarily going to be the best one.
That's right.
Another thing we kind of explored in that, I think, is that, and people may not realize this, when these companies put in bids, it's all based on an estimate of how much asphalt they're going to use. So they say, okay, it's going to be $200,000. That's what we think it's going to be. If they come in at $195,000, well, we don't pay them $200,000, we pay them $195,000. But if for some reason the asphalt costs are more, or they need more asphalt than what they thought, and it's $205,000, we have to pay $205,000. And that was this situation. So it went from their initial bid was $211,000, ended up being $240,000. And it may have been that the other companies, maybe their costs would have gone up too. But the how much lower their bid was changed quite a bit.
It was about a $35,000 difference, and we had Joe Frank explain that, and I think he had mentioned something about the milling they had to do was more than they thought, which is basically when they dig up the old stuff down to the, the bedrock, and then lay a new foundation to it or whatever. That's kind of outside of my expertise. But,
it is.
I think that's basically what he was saying. And so when they got down there, it was more milling they had to do than they initially thought and put into the bid. And that's a clause into the contract that we did that they're eligible to do that. And he indicated that sometimes they actually the city saves money because the bill comes back less than what the actual bid was. So what we learned there is the bid's kind of flexible when it comes to the paving projects and things. To an extent, it's going to be close to that.
And because I want to say when we did a few roads in Ward 6, I think the estimate was $253,000, and it came in at $248,000. So we saved $5,000. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, I guess, in these scenarios. But that's what that was all about. If you watched that part of the meeting, going through the consent agenda, the city will be going to the MML Summer Conference in June, where we get some really valuable training there, and also good networking time with other city leaders. Believe it or not, from this last year, there was someone that we met at an event, and my wife and the mayor's wife of that city, I can't remember the name of the city, it was really tiny. My wife and the mayor's wife of the city, they still text. They're just whatever. Talking high school. I think whatever the city was, they went pretty deep in the high school playoffs. So they were talking high school football and all that kind of stuff. Believe it or not.
High school football, huh?
Yeah, you got to. I mean, it's Mississippi, dude. You got to love high school football now. We had the resolution for a donation to the museum for $6,000. The timing on that was basically just the museum wanted to get that in by the end of the year. We also had the franchise agreement with C-Spire. So this is one of those things, one of those kind of blocking and tackling sort of things where we have to have these agreements with these telecommunications companies, like AT&T and C-Spire, basically just agreeing to what their fees are.
Yeah, so that they use the city right-of-ways for their, that's where your cable line is, or your internet line, or your phone line. And so what this is they make sure that we're getting charged, or we're getting the right amount of money from these companies as they use our right-of-ways. So that's kind of what that is. And I think we found I think we started doing this 3 or 4 years ago, I think, Ben, and we realized that we were kind of getting less.
Maybe not getting the best deal.
Yeah, and so I think this gentleman here, I can't remember his name, you got it there, but I think he kind of started a company that's kind of what they specialize in. He's kind of found a little niche, and he's very successful. I think we ended up generating about $40,000 last year that we didn't.
I bet those companies love it when he walks in the door. They're like, man, we're going to pay.
Well, I mean, he's just following the rules of the road.
Yeah.
Those companies are so large, and I'm sure these cities are so small. Like us, we don't have somebody out there that can go out there and check and see which ones they're actually using and so forth. And so, anyway.
Yeah, let's talk about parks a little bit. The Milton Kirkendall Park, we're looking at designing a new restroom facility out there. If you've been out there recently, you've probably noticed some changes. Some of the like an old concession stand has been removed from out there. The bleachers were removed a while back, but if you haven't been out there recently, we've got that parking lot paved, and we're trying to get it in a better place. The Hernando Young Women's Club
Did a bunch of trees.
Has planted a bunch of trees out there, and
it looks like they made it so far. I was worried about the summer they were going to lose some because it was so hot, but it looks like they've made it.
They've made it. They're resilient. So that park is definitely taking its shape, but we're trying to get some better restroom facilities out there. It's certainly needed. So trying to move forward on that and get a good budget on it. I think we put $100,000 in the city's budget this year for that specific project. But the other thing we want to talk about is the board approved an energy equipment installation contract with the Path Company as an energy services company for $724,000. So when you see that, you're like, well, that seems like a lot of money. What's going on with that? So this is, we've talked about the lighting at the Hernando Soccer Complex and some of the things that are needed out there. So that $724,000, this company is basically the contractor for this work. The scope of the work out there is, engineering the drawings for installing all this lighting. They're putting 4 LED light poles for the soccer field right behind the concession stand, doing all that wiring, the control panel, and then also engineering the installation for the parking lot lighting. There's no parking lot lighting out there. It's kind of a safety hazard when it's dark and when we go through daylight savings time and you have practices that are late and that sort of thing. So 15 new light poles out there in the parking lot, underground wiring, of course, and the electrical panels with by the transformer of the new parking lot lights. So that's what that goes towards.
So basically, anybody's played out there, that's that, I think it was 8U field we played on right there behind the concession stand. It's 2 fields there. We'll light those fields, and we can use that for multiple different size fields and things like that. And talking with Jared, I think they felt that was the best one to light going forward. And we'll continue to do some field lighting out there to get all of them done. But this pretty much puts us at a good spot, I think, for the next maybe 4 or 5 years. So
contract signed.
Yeah, hopefully have it done by spring. Hopefully. Huh?
I think when I talked to the guy at Path that we've been working with, he was like, the sooner y'all can get everything approved and signed, the better. It'll probably be more like March or April, I think, when it's done, and then the season will start, late February, early March. So I think we'll still have a little bit of darkness out there, but people will see that if you go out to the soccer complex and see things are going on. That's what's going on. They're trying to get.
Yeah, well, we paved out there. We put curb and gutter in out there. So I think we've really made some improvements to that park. And I think I told the Rotary Club this the other day when I spoke to them about some of the things we've done in the city. I think our soccer field is comparable to anybody in DeSoto County.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we have continued to improve and work on.
Some fencing. So we've put some fencing out there to keep balls from going into the road, into the parking lot area. I mean, there's been a lot of upgrades. Done out there.
And it's probably no mistake that the quality of the field is so good, and then also our enrollment there is still record numbers every year. So I'm looking forward to it. Are you coaching again this spring?
I'll be coaching again this spring, and I think I'm hanging up my whistle.
This is it?
I guess. I think I'm going to do one more spring season, and then I think I'm going to take a break for a while.
Well,
until
my heart is broken because I asked my son if he wanted me to coach him, and last year I forgot to sign up in time, so I didn't get to coach or whatever. And he said he'd rather have Coach Kenny, which is Kenny Porter, than me.
Yeah.
So that's tough. So
Coach Kenny's a good one.
I think I may be retired from the whistle, soccer whistle anyway.
Can't take it too personal, I definitely get it. I mean, it's hard to be coached by your dad.
I went to high school with Kenny. Kenny was a much better soccer player than I was. So him and his brother Hunter both were very good soccer players.
I mean, were you a good soccer player though?
I was a goalie, so I just.
Oh, okay.
But they were. I
could see that. I could see that. You had that.
Well, you had some good. 2002, 2003, and we went deep in the playoffs. It's the first time I've ever been.
Y'all 3A or 4A back then?
We were 4A, and we played at. I think it was my junior. We played a team in Jackson that was made up of all kids from Africa.
Okay.
They were like an exchange school or whatever, and they had 7 or 8 kids from Africa, and they beat the brakes off us.
I could see that.
But the next year we played New Hope.
Okay.
And we won the first round, and I think the second round we ended up getting beat by New Hope in like 3-2 or something. It was a good game. New Hope's always pretty strong. Back then they had a really good baseball program too. So where New Hope is?
I don't actually.
I can't remember.
It's got to be somewhere in North Mississippi because
I think it's like northeast Mississippi area.
Okay. Like Itawamba?
Somewhere over that way. Down south, though, kind of around.
Okay.
I don't remember.
More like Booneville or something like that?
I just know they had a really good baseball program, and they beat us in soccer that year. So.
Man, okay. So, yeah, I mean, soccer season's right around the corner. If you haven't registered your kid for soccer, that's still open until early January.
January 8th. I registered mine up last week. So
you still got that going on, and if you have your jersey from the fall, you don't have to pay for a jersey in the spring. You just bring the same one. Save you about $35. So want to make sure you've if you can find it, you better find it because it'll save you a little bit of money there.
Cheapskate, man. $35. Give them $35.
I'm just saying, come on. I make sure my kids save mine. I'm like, as soon as the last game's over, give them to me. I'm gonna take care of them. Now let's. So that's basically our meeting.
Do we have anything else on there? Any planning or thing? I don't think.
Oh, we had a little bit of planning, but most of that was final plat approvals. For some lots here that are some developments. One's in the Nesbitt Industrial Park, which that one's been getting developed out for a while.
Yeah, where what animal shelter is.
Correct. There's a bunch of businesses back in there too. I think signs and stuff. Rodney Jones got a place back in there, and Skylake Construction's got a place back in there. So you got a lot of buildings back in there, but this is basically just another lot that they're going to be building on. I'm not sure what the business is there. And then the Getwell Farms, there at the 269 Getwell exit, the first lot of that development getting final plat approval.
Planned unit development there, a PUD there. And
yes.
There's going to be some mixed use. I think the first part's going to be some type of retail, I believe, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be from – and this is all of this stuff can change. I mean, this is one of those things that people don't necessarily understand is that they can say this is what the building's going to look like. This is who is interested and that sort of thing, and then it can change. But it looks like it will be some kind of like restaurant or convenience store option right there. So, and potentially the potential is for both to go in there. Can't necessarily say which restaurant it'll be, but have seen kind of like the preliminary drawings there. It will be very nice. The gas pumps won't face the street.
Did you just say that's where Chick-fil-A is going?
It's not a Chick-fil-A. I'll say that. I will say that it's not a Chick-fil-A.
What?
It's not a Chick-fil-A. I'll say that.
I wish it.
I wish it was. I'm gonna love me some Chick-fil-A. Well, see, that's the other part of it. Folks, you got to think about.
You want to Raising Cane's.
You don't want to be too. You don't want to push too hard because then they got you where they want you. And then you got no negotiating power. So Chick-fil-A can come or not come. I don't care.
You'd rather have Raising Cane's, wouldn't you?
I love some Raising Cane's. Now that cane sauce, that stuff's good. Caniac over here.
Caniac.
That's what they call them.
Are you serious?
Caniacs, yeah. So that'll be going. But the important thing with that one is that if it is a service station or a convenience store or whatever you want to call it, the gas pumps would be located to the rear of the building. So you wouldn't see them from the front of the road. If you're driving on the interstate, of course, you're going to see them. But if you're driving on Getwell, you wouldn't see the gas pumps right there right there in the.
Ben, if I remember, I think Natalie brought this up at the meeting. I believe the developer there agreed to have give the board some type of review authority for anything he puts there. I think you had mentioned maybe you've seen some preliminary things there or something, but. Anyway, so it's not just going to be some raggedy gas station or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
I know there's some future plans there, maybe for a grocery store or something down the road. So I think that's going to be a nice development. Again, it's challenging there because there's no sewer. That's going to be. I think this is going to tap out that location on sewer
and
water capacity. So the next is probably unless somebody wants to dump a bunch of capital into it, it's going to be.
It's going to be
a little while before anything else comes there, I would think.
It'll be a little bit.
They're also going to do some road improvements. I think they're going to add a lane and a half right there at Getwell and Pleasant Hill. Or not Pleasant
mainly
Hill,
to help with the off-ramp traffic.
Yes,
that'll mainly help with the off-ramp traffic that are going to whatever this business is. So the Architectural Review Committee is something that was created in this PUD. They had an Architectural Review Committee, and I asked to be on that, basically to just give a little bit more guidance from the city's perspective of, what would be, acceptable out there. So I have seen some of the preliminary drawings out there. It does look nice. But again, these things can change, and that's, I think with the final plat approval, we're much closer than we have been before. This could also still take 6 months before you even see dirt, significantly moved and see any real progress. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
All right,
is that it, Ben?
I think that wraps up our meeting notes. We talked Christmas, we talked soccer, we talked all the stuff that's going on right now. So I guess we'll bring on our special guest for this week, Mayor Chip Johnson. Mayor, welcome in.
Glad to be here. Good morning to you.
Yeah.
He is. We've been using the City Hall boardroom to record now for a little bit. We've kind of moved around, so I'm doing some.
It's mobile, man.
So a lot of times we'll be over here recording, and then the mayor's on the other end of the building doing mayor things. Meeting with folks or making sure people are on task, and so we said, well, it makes a lot of sense, to have the mayor come on over and sit down with us and talk a little bit about what's going on with the city and what we can expect for 2024.
Yeah. And when we started this podcast, he was one that was on our list to get on the podcast. We've kind of worked our way through.
We had like the election season, and we had to get through that because there was a lot of people that wanted attention.
Parks guy, I think we've had planning. Who else? Who was our first guest? Was it Mark? I can't remember. Was it Mark? Mark Gardner?
I think it was. Yeah, we had some supervisors. We've had department heads. We've had some state people. We've had representatives. Mayor of City of Hernando. Yeah, it was going to be it's on the list, so we're finally here.
I'm glad y'all finally got around to it.
We got around to it.
I will say this podcast is something that is needed. I think y'all saw the need that we know we have these board meetings, but not many people watch them. No. And there's a lot going on in the city, and the average citizen, we'll see it on Facebook. People will be asking questions about things we discussed in the board meeting that they didn't watch. So the more avenues to get the word out to the citizens so they know what's going on and can advise us what they need based on that, it's very helpful.
Yeah, we average between probably 300 and 500 listens or whatever per episode. That's good. I think the people are out here looking at it. Now, recently we were told that we're not very transparent in the city of Hernando. Remember that, Ben?
I do. I've heard that.
So I don't know how much transparent we can be.
I don't know what else we can do. I guess I don't know, but we're certainly trying to make the effort for sure to make sure people can hear what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's good to remind people that every one of our board meetings are videoed and archived on the City of Hernando YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch any meeting you want to that's happened since we've been in office.
You can go back and see Chad talking about stuff, and see me talk about stuff, see the mayor talk about stuff.
Every once in a while we have a pretty interesting meeting. We get a couple hundred views. So
we get once a quarter maybe. So. So Mayor, tell us a little bit about what's been going on here lately. I know you've had some State of the City address with the chamber, recent video that the city put out just with some of the things going on.
Yeah, so the Chamber of Commerce at their last meeting of the year, every year, has me come give a State of the City speech, and y'all were there, and Alderman Doc Harris came up to me after, and he said, that's really good information. I think you should do that State of the City speech for the citizens, do it on a YouTube video. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, they're not going to listen to me for 25 minutes, but we kind of modified that idea, and I kind of trotted around the city just taking snapshots of things that were going on, and people seem to really have liked that, and quite frankly, I enjoyed doing it. It was kind of fun spending a couple hours doing that, but it is important to get the word out to the citizens in any way we can and not just expect them to come looking at it to us. So I remember before I was in office, I didn't watch board meetings. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't have time to go seek it out. But if it was put right in front of me, I could see it. So I think this podcast is part of that. But to answer your question, as y'all know, in the city, we're still growing. And people ask me all the time, well, why are y'all trying to make the city grow? And my answer to that is we're not really trying to. Every day as a mayor and board, we're trying to make a great city for the citizens that live here. And if you create a great place, then just normally other people are going to want to come join this family of Hernando. And so it's not that we're looking for growth, we're just trying to create a good place, and that makes growth happen. So I always told people, if you don't want growth, we have two choices. We can raise your taxes and we can buy all the land and just let it sit there as parkland, or we can just have a bad town, and then nobody will want to come. So, but we're going to continue to see growth, and part of that growth is the last 2 years in a row, our sales tax revenues have been up 8% or better. You know, and that's money that goes directly into the general fund to pay for police and fire and street paving, and those are good numbers. That doesn't mean we've raised taxes on anybody. It just means that more people are shopping here and spending their money locally, which is a good thing. And so there's a lot of that going on, a lot of new income, a lot of new growth. Y'all seen, I don't know if y'all have talked about the new restaurants coming in town. There's a Dunkin' Donuts and a Whataburger that are coming on land that was already zoned commercial. They just pulled their permits. And
well, Chip, so Ben is in charge of the Chick-fil-A recruitment. He's on that committee. And,
so he's not going to give that one up. He is convinced.
I was on the Whataburger committee, and I got that done. So
you sure did. Good job.
Oh my gosh, that's okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
What it is, he'd rather have a Raising Cane's than a Chick-fil-A. Is what it is.
Listen. We talked about earlier. I do really like Raising Cane's. All right, it's got a little bit of spice to it. You know, likes to kick things up a notch, if you will, and I do like it. But I don't know if they even want to. I don't know if they even want to come to Hernando. It'd be a great option because what's the next closest one? You know where the next closest one is?
Raising Cane's in the mall, probably somewhere, huh?
It's in
Tupelo.
It's in Oxford. Well, there's one in Tupelo, and then there's one in Oxford inside the basketball arena, which I don't think really counts because that's not really. You know, you got to go to a basketball game.
It's kind of like having Starbucks and Kroger. It's not the same.
That's a good analogy. So. It's prime. I'm telling you. If we can get it to happen.
Yeah, I would like any restaurant that's not a Mexican restaurant. What was the gentleman that ran for alderman? That was on his business card. He was going to bring 2 restaurants, not Mexican.
Yes, yeah. I do remember seeing that.
Was that Mr.
Mr. Cotton, I think.
Mr. Robin. Yeah.
Which I'll tell you what, he is a really really smart.
Oh, he is
Really smart guy. Like I have definitely, and I will say that through doing all these things. After I was very humbly elected, I was very humbled by being elected. I got a letter in the mail from him, and he had like a handwritten letter of congratulations. And I just thought that was a really classy thing that he did that. You know, he's a great guy.
He served on the planning commission with me, and he certainly is a.
And I got one of those letters as well after the election.
Good guy.
And back on this restaurant recruitment thing, you know. When we first get elected, we think we have more power than we actually do. And I thought I was going to go out recruiting business and all that, and you call on them, you talk to them, and you realize very quickly that businesses, they'll come if you have an open and inviting atmosphere, but they're definitely not going to come until there's enough traffic counts to make it viable. And they know what their formula is, and they need a certain number of cars driving by every day before they'll open. So, you know, I'd love to be able to take credit for all the new businesses that have come, but they come because we have the rooftops here to support them.
That's right.
And there is this delicate balance of you want to have a certain look to your city. I know people probably have noticed that you know that you can't just put a metal building up with a business inside it. You know, there's certain standards that cities have and whatever else. So businesses that are going to locate here have to consider those things. Well, you know, if we put it here or we put it at an interstate exit, 3 miles down the road, we won't necessarily have to do all the things that we would if we located in Hernando.
That's true. I will say a few years back, DeSoto County adopted design guidelines too that are pretty similar to ours. So whether you build it in the county or in the city, you're going to go through mostly the same hoops. That's right. But we do pay attention. You know, the city put design guidelines in place in 2003, and that was right before almost everything on the east side of the interstate was built. And if that hadn't have been done, we'd probably have metal buildings and concrete block buildings over there instead of the brick facades you see now.
Yeah. Well, let's dive. We kind of we introduced the state of the city, and then we veered away from it. So let's turn back into it, and let's touch on public works. Is that the first thing we want?
Public safety, I think, is first.
Let's do public safety. That's probably better.
Well, public safety. Yeah. I mean, the board has to approve the budget for that, and there's always money required when you're going to upgrade public safety. And the board has been very focused on getting a third ambulance. And as part of that, last year, y'all approved money for us to rebuild Fire Station number 1 here at City Hall and get a place for the ambulance crew to sleep. That got done. This year, y'all have budgeted money to buy a third ambulance. So we have put out the RFQ for that. So hopefully by the end of this budget year, we'll have that third ambulance up and running. So that's a huge deal. As y'all know, we've got 2 ambulances, and we only got the second ambulance a few years ago, which was very much needed. And we'll give props to the last administration for getting that done for certain. They did a good job getting it in there and getting it funded. And as we still grow, there's times that both of our ambulances are at the hospital and a third call comes in. Luckily, we work with the entire county and almost operate as a unit. So if both of ours are up there, they may grab the ambulance from your door and drive it halfway to Hernando and sit on the side of the road in case we have another emergency, and vice versa. We do that for them. But getting the third ambulance here in town is probably going to save lives someday. So that's a big one. The other thing that could possibly save lives someday, and we hope it doesn't come to that, is last year, y'all had voted to get us up to 5 school resource officers, and in the interim, the school board has come to us and offered more supplemental money that we would co-fund with them, and by the start of the next school year, we're going to have 7 school resource officers protecting the kids and mentoring them in the school. So I think those are the 2 big things in public safety, and since y'all been in office, we've increased our police force about 12% from when we took office, and we're just trying to keep up. We'd love to have more police officers, but we also have to not spend all our money. Mm-hmm. We've got to keep a little in reserve, but it's a delicate balance every day. And y'all know when we go through the budget process, everybody wants something, and most of the things the citizens want, we want too. But we just have to figure out where the money comes from.
Well, and I think it's important to note, Chip, that most of our spending is non-discretionary spending. We really don't have a whole lot of that budget the light bill is going to be the same. The personnel is going to be the same. And we've been hit with some stuff from the state with the PERS increases and things like that has put some pressure on us too. So,
and I mean, so like payroll, for example, is around let's just say $10 million. It's a good round figure. Mm-hmm. No, it's not exactly that, but
it's pretty close.
Good round figure. So just the sales tax that's brought in is, between $5 and $6 million, right?
That's right.
So the sales tax wouldn't cover the payroll for the city,
right.
And that kind of helps people understand. Yeah, like sales tax is something that's significant. It's a significant part of the budget, but it's only about maybe a third of the total overall, revenue that's needed to keep the city running. So when we do have a sales tax positive trend or growth or whatever it may be, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going out and buying a bunch of police cars with it or something.
That's right.
Because it may only be a small increase.
And as fast as the city is growing, nobody ever wants us to just be out hiring more and more people, because once you hire a position, you're pretty much there from now on.
That's right.
Unless we see a decline in population. Yeah. But we're growing so rapidly, and every department has people that are just totally overworked, and mm-hmm. y'all have been really good to help us acquire some really good key leaders by getting salaries that are competitive for us, and we're not losing employees. So that's a plus, but we're still, it seems like every year we're having to add somebody somewhere.
And I want to go back to the ambulance, because that was a really important thing. Previous administration, great job getting a second ambulance. I know that I campaigned on that when I tried to run for office in 2017, that we needed a second ambulance. But I'm glad that they did that, because it was definitely needed. I want to say Chief Barry, I asked him, like, how many instances are there where both ambulances are busy and we had to call out for a third one? And he's like, well, I can't narrow it down to instances. And he was like, but in an average month, a 30-day month, he was like, on 22 days out of the 30, we had times where 2 ambulances were busy and we needed to call for a third one.
That's right.
So that's how many days it was. So basically 67% of the time on any given day, there was a chance that both ambulances were going to be busy and we had to call out for a third one. So we do look at those somewhat from a granular or a metric standpoint to say this is needed. This is a maybe not necessarily a problem, but it's a deeply concerning thing that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. So, and you had mentioned Public Works.
Yes, Public Works.
Public Works just, the garbage gets picked up, the brush gets picked up, but that's just a minimal part of what they do. And most of the time they're not seen or heard from, and people don't realize it until they don't have water at their house.
They're complaining about a pothole or something like that.
And you know, as we've been growing, I guess the fiber companies have decided we have a high enough median income that they're trying to run fiber in front of every house in Hernando. And as they're running that fiber, they're hitting our water lines. And suddenly we've got a water leak at midnight or 10 in the afternoon or whenever, and we're having to call people in, and they're having to totally rebuild those water lines to get your water back to you as quickly as possible. And that just happens on a regular basis. I mean, multiple times per week. Everybody gets called in at some point in the Public Works Department during the week. But I want to go back on Father's Day. If y'all remember, we had that thing they called a microburst that felt like a tornado. And our guys were out there immediately, and literally for 30 days, they worked 7 days a week trying to get that storm cleaned up. And there were parts of town, most parts of town didn't even see the results of it. It was so concentrated in the downtown area. But the guys just worked and worked and worked and did literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of extra work to get everything cleaned up. And there's still a couple of buildings over there with tarps on them that are just now finally getting repaired in the Northern Street area. So those kind of things happen. And, you know, when an emergency happens, the citizens see it for about the first 2 or 3 days and go back to their regular lives. And Public Works just has to keep going. And little crazy things happen that we don't notice. Some of you may have seen that somehow a truck dumped a bunch of dried corn on Commerce Street 2 days ago. It was stretched from Coffee Central all the way down to the new Dunkin' Donuts, and the whole street was yellow with corn. And so not only did we have to send the street sweeper down there right at the end of the workday, they had to come back the next day with blowers and get it off the sidewalks. And, you know, you got a 4-man crew out there working with blowers, and that ties up half their day. Mm-hmm. And then they got to get back to fixing their regular water leaks and things like that. But those guys are an extra set of heroes we have out there working for us every day, and I just want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, that's a tough job, and Lee and them do a great job. So
when all that corn was spilled, I had about a dozen people ask me if they put a deer stand up. Commerce. I'm like, man, look,
we should have offered free corn for them to come get it.
It's that time of year too. So
there was some other stuff that's happened in the last year in that Public Works Department that they didn't personally do. The engineering staff worked on, but as y'all know, we had a little bit of an emergency when we first took office that the health department said, hey, your 2 water plants out there on the east side of town are above capacity and you can't issue any new building permits. And there were new subdivisions already under construction. So we sprang into action, and we put in a new water line out on Holly Springs Road that connected to the Lauder Road plant, gave us a lot more capacity. And we've been upgrading the Jaybird water plant, which has given us more capacity. And we got out of that emergency pretty quick, but we know it could come again. So y'all have also authorized to do the East Parkway water plant upgrades, and those parts are on order. So that'll be 3 water plants that'll be giving us more water. We've done some cross-connection things, so if you lose water in one area, you can open a couple of valves and maybe not lose it everywhere. So those are things you don't see that are going on.
And I think part of the issue when we purchased North Mississippi Water System, whatever, there was, I think some of those issues, they may not have the best maintenance program when it was privately owned, and so we've had to kind of play catch up on getting that done. I think that affects your neighborhood a lot, Ben, your area there. I know at one time it seemed like every other day the water was off or there's a water boil alert, but now I think we've got that addressed. So.
Yeah, I mean it is one of those things that. If you live on the eastern side of the city, you probably have had your water shut off for one reason or another because there's development going on in the county just outside the city limits. And in the county, they didn't require copper wire to be run by their water lines, so that they're much harder to know exactly where they are. In the city, we mark them. People, and sometimes even when we mark them, people still bore straight through them. I know that happened out on Mackinville not that long ago.
You charge through that?
It wasn't. No, it was a contract. It was a contractor that did it. It was out of the church property, but it was a contractor that did it. But they went straight through it. Even with the line marked. So it, people make mistakes, and that's part of life for sure. But we're trying to do everything we can to keep it addressed and try to keep consistent services going on. But it's definitely a huge challenge with the amount of growth going on, not just in Hernando, but also in the county just outside city limits.
Yeah. Before we leave Public Works, there's one other thing. We've been doing these things called EWP projects, emergency watershed projects, and they were going on in the Deer Creek and Fort Creek area. And we just got our bids in the other day for one over at Heritage Cove. So we'll be presenting that to the board, hopefully at the next board meeting, for y'all to authorize us to accept the lowest and best bid. But we're kind of getting in the, just kind of working every year to do one of these projects. And the reason they're good projects is we all know we have drainage problems here and there and scattered across town, but these programs pay 75% of it. So we just have to come up with 25% of the money. So we're always trying to budget a little bit of money each year to at least do one project. And this Heritage Cove one is the one that's about to start getting done. So,
and this is the erosion prevention stuff and all that. Yeah, like that, that's what we did at Kirkendall Park. Wasn't that one at EWP?
Kirkendall Park was one right there by the daycare, right behind Walgreens.
Magnolia Lane, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we both had a kid going to that daycare, and so we heard about it every time we picked up our kid.
And I had a grandkid going to that daycare. We all heard about that one, yeah.
So. But Heritage Cove is right there where on Thousand Oaks, there's Mason Drive right there, Creekside Boulevard, and Heritage Cove right there. So that is a project in Ward 6 where you have a creek bed that's eroding, and people have, like, their back fence is basically starting to lean because the erosion's so bad right there. So we're trying to, but taking this action takes much longer than you would think. It's not just a quick ask and get the check from the federal government.
It's a good deal for the city, and we keep looking at them. Like you said, one a year. That's great.
Yeah, and we've got a long list of them that the engineers keep looking at. And when there's a rain, what do they call it? Basically, if you get a big rainfall of a certain number of inches, they open up the list, and then we'll slide one of these onto the list for approval and get it done the next year.
It's like a significant storm event.
That's
something
it.
Like
significant
that.
storm.
Is it the national? Was it the national? Is it NCRW or something? Like
NRCS.
Yeah, NRCS.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
So let's move on. We've covered public safety, public works. What else is left?
Well.
Parks? Is that a thing?
Actually, there's another couple of things going on, little ones, in the engineering public works. We've, for years, we've been working towards getting a new little sidewalk going north to the high school from Walgreens. And we just got the go-ahead letter yesterday. Joe Frank walked in my office with it. So probably in the next week or two, we'll give a notice to proceed to the contractor that y'all have already approved. And
I was down there yesterday. I was thinking, man, we're going to do that at some point. And I said,
yep. When you get that federal money that has to flow through the local public agency process at MDOT, everything just takes more time. I remember starting one of those meetings, and they brought in the big set of plans, and the guy from MDOT looked at it. The first thing he said, he's looking at the cover, he said, you need to change the size of the font on these letters. So that's how picky these things get. They can take a long time, and bureaucracy is a real thing when you're working with federal dollars. But we're about to start that little small sidewalk project, so that'll be another thing you'll see coming
Are we
up.
doing some bike lanes on Mount Pleasant while I'm thinking about it?
We are. That's one of those with federal dollars coming through the Metropolitan Planning Organization that will run through MDOT and that local public agency process. Austin Cardosi is overseeing that project, and it'll probably be a year and a half before we see that built. But we do have funds set aside coming from the federal government for that.
All right, let's. What's the next department we want to?
Yeah, you want to talk about parks?
Well, yeah, let's talk about parks.
Yeah.
All right.
Big thing on Tuesday. We signed the paperwork to officially own the Hernando Civic Center property, or whatever it's Hernando Civic Center Association, whatever they call the property there. So
Civic Center ball fields.
I guess they'll record the deed, and I guess we officially own it now.
We officially own it. It's a big deal. Lots of people have been working on that for lots of years, and we made a step back around 15 when we started leasing the land for $1 a year, and I think people thought the city was going to change it immediately, and we figured out pretty quickly we could only spend small amounts of money on it because we didn't own it. Which makes good sense. That'd be like renting your brother-in-law's barn and fixing it up when you didn't, and giving it back to him later. There's laws in place to prevent that kind of stuff. But so I think after a year or two, when the citizens realized we couldn't do those capital improvements, they started asking us what we could do to purchase it. And we've all been wanting to do this for a long time, and I think we're going to show a little bit of action right off the bat when we do that lip removal work on the fields in early January that y'all have already approved. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what that is, over time, the little line between the outfield and the infield dirt just piles up there, and when the ball rolls across, it takes crazy hops, and it's just dangerous for the kids. So we've authorized that work, and that'll be the first major work we do since we've owned the park.
And that'll be every field but the T-ball field. We'll get that. So,
and for all the volunteers that pitch in hours and all that kind of stuff that have been raising money out there, you probably need to keep doing that, because it's right. This isn't an immediate fix sort of thing. I've talked with Brittany out there at the
Brittany Harris.
Yep, Brittany Harris that does the work. I think it's Brittany Rios now. I think she got married.
Oh, she got married. Okay.
I think she got married.
I gotta give her some money for. I bought a banner. I gotta give her some money for a banner. I just thought about that
we could have had a lot of stuff fixed out there, Chad. You get that check in. But they're doing some improvements to the dugouts and things like that make an aesthetic difference, but also makes it a better playing experience for the kids. Those things have to continue going on as well. Everybody pitching in and pulling in the same direction, it's going to get better over time. So we're going to be able to do what we can with the lip removal, and at the same time, we've got something really big on the horizon.
We do. We all met as a committee and looked at the overall parks plan. And that thing's, I've got a big map in my office if anybody wants to come by and see it, but there is an overall parks master plan. It was about a $30 million plan, and we're trying to stick to that as closely as we can as grants become available, and this bond issue we just did. So the board approved, meeting before last, that we are going to spend this bond issue on a few things. One of them is that lip removal. One of them is new lighting at the soccer fields.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, yeah.
And then the big one is a new quad of baseball and softball fields that will be in the Renaissance Park side. And it just made sense to go ahead and build those first with a concession stand bathroom in the middle of them. That way we can continue play at the Civic Center ball fields, on those fields that will be safer once the lip removal's done. So we'll keep playing over there while the new ones are being built. Then hopefully once those are built and we're in them a couple of years, then we can start concentrating on really upgrading what's over at the Civic Center. And I think what we've talked about at the Civic Center is the engineers always open our eyes to things we didn't really realize. We had talked about maybe building some new ones at the bottom or the south end over there, but they say the way that the water is going to flow across the whole site is important, and we need to take all that into account. We can't just plop new fields down at the south end without considering, and maybe even starting up at the north end, to make sure everything works together. So it'll be a long process over there, but it is still on our master plan to upgrade those. There are lots of things on the master plan that we'll get to at some point. And we're also doing some stuff in Renaissance Park that y'all approved on the east side where you come in off of 51. We were able to get a grant with the expertise of Jared and Gia working for this Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Program grant. First year it was available, and we were one of the few towns that got it. And we're very proud of that. And I've had people say to me, well, why are you doing this outdoor amphitheater style thing with a pavilion and bathrooms and 18-hole disc golf? And that's all great, but what about tennis and basketball and those kind of things? And those things couldn't be funded with this grant. So that's why we're getting what we're getting. We literally took our master plan down to Jackson, showed it to the person over the grant, and said, which of these things could be funded in your grant? So that's how we got that grant. So I always want to reach out to the citizens, and if you specifically know of a grant that we may not have seen that could help us fund some of the parks, bring it to us. We'll apply for it for sure. But the reality is there just aren't many baseball and recreational stuff grants out there.
And if you love trees, which I think we love trees in Hernando, it may not look like it sometimes, but we do. This grant really protects a lot of those areas where when you're first driving in to Renaissance Park, there's some large areas of mature trees, and those are going to be a little more protected now because of this grant and because of how they're being used. So it will kind of make it much more of a park scene than it would, let's cut down an acre of trees so we can put in, tennis and basketball courts. Well, that may be down the road, but for now, in that main entrance area, it's going to keep it really green, keep it really lush.
Yeah, and that master plan took that into account. Most of the places where we've cited the future tennis and basketball courts and pickleball courts are in areas where there aren't trees. We wouldn't really be losing any. as we do the 18-hole disc golf course, they like the trees. Those are obstacles, so it'll meander through those trees and even through the natural meadow we're going to create. There'll be a hole out in the middle of that most likely. So it'll be another way for people to get out and involved in nature.
And that's a really nice park to go out and walk through or jog through, and just going to keep getting better. I take my dog out there, me and my sons, and we go out there and walk across the bridge and all that, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah, my mother-in-law loves that.
I ran into a snake in the summertime. You got to be careful.
Oh, did you really? Like a bad one? You stick around.
I
and
didn't
see what
stick
it
around and
was.
see how bad it was, man.
I hear you.
Snake's a snake, man.
I'm with you.
And there's still some deer that cross out there as well.
It's a nice area, and so again, we're just improving what's out there, and we don't have hundreds of $1 million to spend, so we got to kind of pick it out, piecemeal it together, and that's what we're going to do. So.
And,
working within the budget.
Yeah, and we've done a couple of things in the budget. In the last budget, we got the new Parkway Cove Park. That's a little neighborhood park at the end of East Parkway on a small parcel, and the playground equipment that was there was the old playground equipment that probably left Conger Park in 2002. Okay. And so it had been reused and repurposed there, but it was so old, it was unsafe. And y'all appropriated money, and Jared worked with the crew to get it built. There's a brand new little park down there.
Yeah, it's a little pocket park, and I tell people about that all the time. So, and there, there's a lot of kids in that area right through there. You're at Riley Street and South Park or Parkway there, and so it's a lot of kids, a lot of athletes. I think they use that park quite a bit. So,
and sometimes it's the little things because y'all know we're working to upgrade Kirkendall Park, and for those of you who don't know the name Kirkendall Park, that's the old high school football field and track. And so we've done a little repairs on the track. That's a rubber track, so if you feel like your knees are getting beat up, go run on that one or walk on that one. There's also outdoor exercise equipment there that's still in great shape, and we've been refurbishing it a little, put a new rope on the climbing rope thing and making sure it's operational. But the big thing is we had an old falling down concession stand there, and we tried to refurbish it into bathrooms, but it was going to cost more than it was worth. So our own crews went out and tore it down the other day. Instead of hiring someone to do it, our Public Works Department did it, so it's minimal cost, just 3 dumpster loads we had to rent. So it's bare now, and we're asking AERC to design us a brand new one because, quite frankly, the contractors that were bidding on it said it's going to be cheaper. We can build you a new one cheaper than we could have repurposed that. So soon you'll see a new bathroom out there, which, it's not one of those things you like to spend money on, but if you've got a park, you got to have a bathroom. So that's getting done, and the Young Women's Club of Hernando put $15,000 worth of trees out there. So, that, and also coupled with the parking lot that the Board of Education worked with us to get resurfaced right next to it. So that park is coming alive again. It's really gone from being an eyesore to something we can be proud of. And it's not been a big amount of money.
Yeah, I think the parking lot was we split that with them. So was it like $12,000 or something like that?
Yeah, it was a $25,000 or $26,000 paving.
Yeah, y'all did a good job working that out with I call him Coach U, but Mr. Usselton, he was my basketball coach. He says I didn't play basketball, but whatever.
I tried out for basketball in 8th grade. They wouldn't take me.
You might have been on the team, but you didn't play basketball.
Huh?
You were on the team, but you didn't play basketball. Is that what he's getting to?
I played 9th grade basketball, and then I quit.
I got you.
I was concentrating on something else.
I'm sure, man, dude. We have, look, 4A offensive, what was it? 4A Region Offensive Player of the Year, right?
Baseball, yeah. That's all right.
Well, you can't do it all. You can't do it all.
I know y'all been out to the Gatorade Fieldhouse to see some basketball this season, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think that's incredible that, the first season we were at 513, which was an increase of over 100 from the year before. And this year we started out with over 600 in practices. And it just makes good sense for us to be using the Gatorade Fieldhouse. Before, as y'all know, if you had kids in basketball, you were traveling around from school to school.
Grove school, whatever.
Yeah, and it just wasn't very efficient. And this place is made for basketball. There's 4 really nice courts in there, and my nephew plays there, and everybody just loves it. So it's a great amenity to have in town, and it's just given us we probably have the best facility for rec basketball in the entire state.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that facility could not have been built by the city of Hernando.
No way.
It would have cost tens of millions of dollars to get a facility like that built. So we are very fortunate to have that.
But wasn't you in there the other day when the storm come through? Didn't you?
I was in there. I was in there when the tornado warning was going on. That is one thing. That's one thing I don't know if the city addresses it at some point, but getting some fiber internet to that that part of the city, I think it's something that we gotta look at some point.
Yeah. I was working with our public safety people during that storm, and you were my guy inside the field house, and you said there's hundreds of people here, and so we were making sure everybody knew that y'all were there, and in case something hit that area, and we opened up the emergency shelter over at the Hernando Elementary, and it was about an hour of being pretty nervous.
Yeah,
I felt like Jim Cantori. Yeah. I was like. Yeah, I felt like I was in the line of the storm in a way, and I was sending updates to people, and I was like, if this is this guy's job, like, this is a terrible job. We must be paid.
I was in South Haven at the movie. We were watching Napoleon, me and Shelby, and you texted. I'm opening the storm shelter. I was like, dang it, Shelby, I think we got to leave because the boys were at home. Was at home, so we left the movie early and come down. And by the time we got to here, it cleared up. So it's just
sorry I ruined your dates.
No, but you were. I mean, I clean out the closets and get in the closets. All you can do, really. Or, the storm shelter, and that's probably we got to tell everybody. There's a storm shelter right behind Hernando Elementary School. That's, probably the safest place in the county.
FEMA building.
Probably.
It is.
Yeah, FEMA building. So.
Yeah, the only problem is if we get a storm in the middle of a school day, the kids are the first ones to go in there. Right. So, obviously that makes sense. We'd want all those school kids to be in there first. But if it's an after hours, we have the keys to it. We open it, alert the citizens. So. And that's twice in the last year that we've opened that facility, and the citizens love having it. One little thing, you don't want to be negative, but we can't allow people to bring their pets there.
Man.
And I know people love their pets, and at the first time, even though we put that out,
people still brought their little
dog. Some people brought some big dogs, and it was a problem. It was a scary situation.
Yeah, they were fighting each other.
And we love our pets, but we have got to put our citizens first when there's a storm. So, right. Make other arrangements for your pets, and we'll take the humans.
That's right.
And hey, while we're on pets, we opened that new animal shelter this year.
He's a professional. It's like a segue.
That's why he's the mayor.
My gosh.
So you better learn from this now.
I mean, I guess take it away. I mean, that was a good segue.
I'm telling y'all, this animal shelter. When you get one, you wonder how it's going to operate. And, animal shelters, by their very nature, kind of could be nasty places, right? You got all these animals in there with the things they do. And literally the other day when I was doing that little video, State of the City, we just stopped by. The director, Jessica, didn't know we were coming. We just stopped in there to grab some quick video. Every time I drop in there, you could eat off the floors. They are managing that place so well. The animals that we are getting off the streets are really being taken good care of. We stay pretty full with dogs, and but we're doing better about adopting them out. We work really closely. Nestor, that runs our video for us, he does videos for them, and people can look and see which pets are available to be adopted. But I think we should go down there as a board again now that it's open and functional, and just let y'all see it again. I'm sure y'all drop in occasionally, but it's really probably the best run animal shelter.
Jessica's taken that and ran with it great. She does a great job.
She does.
And I know I had a couple aldermen from Horn Lake that reached out to me and wanted a tour of it because they're considering building an animal shelter right now, and they were blown away by what we were able to build for only $1 million. Because they had considered their budget that they had considered was I think $5 or $6 million. So they went back to their board and said, well, we went to Hernando and saw this one. We only need to spend half of what we're even budgeting, and we'd have something that would be more than adequate. So I think that I think that we were good stewards of that project to make sure that the money that was spent was done in a way that it reflects what the community needed. You have people from other cities coming in and saying, you did a great job with this, and they're going back to their budgets and saying, look, we can do this. Let's follow the model that Hernando put in place. So I think it was it's definitely been a great project.
It was long overdue, and I'm glad we finally got it done and get it behind us. And
it wasn't sustainable the way it was, and
no, absolutely not.
Especially now, if you go out to Fire Station 2 now, where they used to have the pens and all that kind of stuff.
I need to go out there. I haven't been out there since.
You got to go out there because
what have they done with the garage?
I don't think they've done much with it yet.
Okay.
We still have the old the backup pickup truck sitting there that's for the animal shelter. Y'all did allocate money for a new animal control, but we had to park it there because it was leaking oil on our new animal shelter parking lot.
There you go. Well, that's fine. That's good.
But they are doing, is it a tornado siren or a communications tower or something that's getting put in back there?
Actually, that is going to be a new water tower.
Water tower, that's what it is.
Yes, Nesbitt Water, we've given them an easement.
That's right.
And they've bought the land behind there. So there will be a new water tower there for the citizens in our city to the north who are not on Hernando Water and they're part of Nesbitt.
That's right. So they've gotten started on it because there's a gravel road going back in there and all that. So it was just not, keeping it there was not sustainable. There was no way that we could keep that going in that direction. So something had to be done. I'm glad we've got it completed and we can move on from it.
And we're doing upgrades already. You know, once they moved into animal shelter, she's realizing we need a couple of different separated pens for outdoor runs for the dogs. And it looks like the donors are still giving money, and we'll have that funded through donations. So really and truly, we pay the bills for the building, the gas and electric bill and things of that nature, and we pay our staff, which is a big expense, but we still are getting lots of donations from people who love the pets, and that's very helpful to us to run that shelter economically.
I think so. Windy City Grill had a night where I guess they were doing come take pictures with Santa Claus sort of deal, and I think that raised about $500 to go towards some animal services and that sort of thing. So definitely appreciate them holding an event like that, because that stuff does add up. But when anybody that went out to it, if they were wondering like, well, how much money did they raise?
Have y'all met the new owners of Windy City yet?
I have not met them.
I have not either.
We got to get them on. That could be our next guest.
There you
go. We need to have like we do need to get somebody from the chamber on or something to talk about everything that's going on business-wise.
We hadn't had Siboney yet.
Yeah. This shouldn't be part of the show. It shouldn't be us planning the next show.
Oh, okay.
That can't be part of the show.
I will say, and I'm not going to say what I was there. We'll let Siboney do it. But the Mississippi Main Street director for the whole state, who is actually taking another job, so we're searching for a new one. But he was able to get money from the state legislature. With
we got to do to get that job. I know somebody's looking for something.
Hey, it's still open.
There you go.
Still open. But yeah, he got $5 million to distribute through about 23 Main Street communities, of which Hernando is one. So we have $100,000, and they have gotten approval for what it's going to be spent on. It's some pretty cool stuff they're going to be doing in downtown Hernando that will, just directly affect our citizens. They're doing it through the chamber. So we're grateful, and that'd be a good show for y'all to have.
Well, there we go. We'll see if we can get the chamber. We'll see if we can get Siboney on.
Mayor, you have any final thoughts before we get out of here for Christmas? Any challenges we're facing? Anything coming? Anything new?
Well, growth is always a challenge. Right. Y'all, I'm sure your listeners know that there's a Dunkin' Donuts and a Whataburger under construction. There's a Home 2 Suites under construction. All of those things will generate more sales tax dollars, which in my mind means more streets being paved in your neighborhoods. And y'all can look around town, see streets that are being paved. We are just about through with the old list that Civil Link had made for the city in the last administration. We just about got all those streets paved because they were ranked from bad to best. And, if your street's not getting paved, it's probably because it's better than some of the other streets. So we still have a lot of catching up to do, but the board has been very generous in allocating money to get local streets paved, and you'll see a lot more getting paved in the spring. I do want to just say thank you to y'all and our entire board for working as a team. People across the whole county look at our board and tell me all the time that it's like, y'all aren't sitting up there acting like fools in your board meetings. Y'all get along, y'all take care of business. You can tell you have differing opinions, but everybody treats each other with respect. And we're moving the city forward really, really quickly. When I think if we started making a list of the things that have happened in the last 2.5 years, it would be too much to even just read in one of these episodes. A lot has happened, and it's because of teamwork. And we all are pulling on the same rope to move Hernando forward and make it the best place in DeSoto County or in the entire state for citizens to live. So I appreciate the board and our relationship, and I just want to wish y'all and all the citizens a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to everyone out there listening. Mayor, board, everybody, Merry Christmas. Chad, that's it for 2023. Let's wrap it up.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Everybody's waiting on a train. Gonna take